Good afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you to this day's session and webinar from Engineering for Industry. Today, we will be looking at a very important topic. We'll be looking at harnessing intellectual capital from tertiary institutions. And for us to actually have this wonderful conversation, we have a lineup of panelists composed of both the academia and the industry that will look at this topic and help us to do a very good justice to this topic. So, on behalf of Clintonel Innovation Centre, uh, I want to welcome each and every one of us this afternoon to this webinar. Before we go on to introduce our panelists, I want to bring up Mr. Tochukwu Chukwueke, who is the CEO of Clintonel Innovative Centre and the project manager and coordinator for the Engineering for Industry project, so that he will introduce himself, the E4I project, and then from there we will go on to introduce our panelists and we will kick in immediately with our discussion. So, Mr. Tochukwu, you're welcome, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tochukwu Chukwueke, as earlier introduced. I'm the founder of Clintonel Innovation Centre. Clintonel Innovation Centre is Nigeria's first makerspace or engineering tech hub, where we provide training, mentoring, and equipment for people to create engineering innovations, develop new products, and start up enterprises. We are the lead implementing partner for Engineering for Industry project, E4I. E4I is a project to bridge the engineering skills gap in Nigeria between the industry and the academia, enhance industry academia collaboration, and drive industrialization in Nigeria. Part of the outputs we expect is we've already concluded a research, and with the outcome of that research, we'll be publishing a white paper, a report on how to bridge the engineering skills gap in Nigeria. So for that white paper research, we've had engineering lecturers from about 11 tertiary institutions who participated in the research, interviewing over 200 engineering experts across different sectors. So we've also had to learn from foreign universities and other institutions. So we are working together now to conclude that report on that. We'll be facilitating collaboration between the industry and the academia. Part of the E4I project will also involve capacity building for engineering lecturers, graduates, and graduates. On industry-based problems. We also have advocacy for a review of the Nigerian engineering curriculum. And then we also have STEM education training for different secondary schools. And we have an annual engineering competition, which will help to showcase and support engineering across the country. So we'll provide more information as we proceed. So thank you all for joining us in today's webinar. The E4I program is supported by the by Engineering X, which is an international collaboration founded by the Royal Academy of Engineering, UK. It's also supported by the SCT Foundation, Nigeria. So we are grateful for the people that are supporting the program and for all our partners. Thank you for the participants, the panelists. Thank you for bringing out your time to discuss with us, share ideas with us. And then thank you for all the participants that are joining us in this discussion. And also thanks to the College of Engineering Technology and Education, Clintonel University of Agriculture, for this opportunity, for the collaboration we have with the faculty, and for the opportunity to have this event. Thank you. I wish us a lovely and sweet, insightful deliberations today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, Mr. Tochukwueke, for that brief introduction of CIC and E4I project. All right. Currently, because we don't have the Dean for Faculty of Engineering on this call, is not here, as well as Engineer Nonso, who is the co-organizer of this project and webinar. We'll be moving straight to the introduction of the panelists. So as of now, currently we should be having four panelists. We'll be having four panelists actually, but currently now we have two of our panelists in the room. We're expecting that the other panelists will join us in the course of this discussion. So very quickly, I'll be introducing Engineer Dr. Patrick Obi and Mr. Isidore Onyako. So Engineer Dr. Patrick Obi is a fellow of the National Nigerian Society of Engineers. He is currently the acting head of department, Electrical and Electronic Engineering, College of Engineering and Engineering Technology at Michael Okpara University of Agriculture in Umudike. His area of specialization is power system and power devices, and he has had plethora of experiences and years of exposure in the academia. Engineer Dr. Patrick Obi, I want you to say you're very welcome, sir, and I want you to say a word of welcome to everyone on this call.
Thank you so much, my moderator. Co-panelists, you are all welcome. Although you have corrected the mistake I wanted to correct, which Ikechukwu has been making. That's the College of Engineering and Engineering Technology, Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, not College of Engineering and Engineering Education, as was written in the flyer.
Yeah.
I hope you are getting me.
Yes, sir.
So I'm welcoming everybody to this discussion today, which is going to, by God's grace, be enriching and entertaining. You are welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Patrick Obi. All right. Our next panelist, who is currently on this call with us, all the way from Ottawa, Canada, is Mr. Isidore Onyako. Mr. Isidore Onyako is the founder of Fact Technology Solution. And he is joining us from Canada, and he will be sharing from his wealth of engineering experience in the field, in the industry with us. Mr. Isidore, we want to say a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. For us, it is this afternoon, but for you, it is this morning. So thank you for joining us this afternoon from all the way from Canada. Please, can you just say a few words of welcome to the General House?
Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to actually get to speak to my people about a discipline and a knowledge area I'm very passionate about. I strongly believe having started my education, grown up in Nigeria, and been to several parts of Nigeria where things are actually being done, and then coming to Canada where we actually make stuff, and then getting to the point where I'm actually making my own stuff, and then putting it in the market and seeing people see value from it. I just feel like it's a very good opportunity given to me to share my knowledge. Obviously, my mentor, my idol is Elon Musk. You guys can see he likes to talk about what he does in the hope that other people will be inspired, because the goal is to create an industry. You cannot have an industry of one. You need more people to do what you're doing. That way the world will begin to see that there is a strong pull of intellectual, capacity and capability in Nigeria. That way, when they want to solve problems, they know where to look to get those problems solved. So that's my vision. There is no objective to let knowledge reside in one person. We believe that when more people have it, then when people want to deal with issues of those kinds, it's very easy for them to, start thinking about that area. So that's part of Nigeria where people actually want to make stuff. My vision is to give them a voice.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Can you quickly just take 1 or 2 minutes and talk to us about what you do and what your company Fact is all about?
Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. I didn't even, I wasn't expecting this would be an opportunity to actually talk about what we do, but, I would be glad to do that. So, obviously, I'm an artist, I love drawing things and making stuff. I'm happy that my daughter picked up on that. But I live in Nigeria and working so hard to, sorry about that. Living in Nigeria and working so hard, to see that I actually acquire the necessary skills I need to start making stuff. So I got into I did a few masters degrees in Canada here as an international student. Then from there, I felt I did one in engineering management, then another one in MASc in biomedical engineering with emphasis on imaging, advanced imaging systems and automation, and then bioinformatics. So with that, I was exposed to what data, I was exposed to how powerful data can be, data analytics, and now we are going into the area of AI and all that. But, we can go too far. I figured I don't think there is a lot of contribution in going too far. We need to come back and start solving problems we have in Nigeria. So one of the problems I saw there was growing up in Lagos, I've always had issues with people handling cash. I don't like it. I don't feel like when there is so much cash flying around, the economy cannot grow so well. We want it to grow. So I set up a vision to start focusing on building self-service systems, or just in a concise manner to move cash away from the public back into the bank. So we go more electronic in payments and all that. So you can see with that created an avenue where we can pick up any industry and see what can be done, right, to make it easy for people to make payments and then, model their workflows. So the first one we picked up is the oil and gas industry, and that's the petrol stations. So when I go there, I feel that people handle cash a lot. And we got into, we started researching, talking to the people over there, and they actually expressed a need, to reduce the risk the people at the filling stations are exposed to, and at the same time moving cash and and the banks also expressed interest in wanting to see that transactions are electronic. So we built Fact platform to address that specific need. So what we also did was we came to Nigeria and we showed the players in Nigeria, the fintechs and the banks. So we showed them that we have capacity. But what they told us is that they've seen most of those technologies we are talking about, most of those automations, that they are very expensive. They made that clear. So they asked us if we built our system from the scratch. I said, yes, I did that with my colleagues. I have the best teams. They are all first class from, Futo and the East there. And they are here with me in Canada. So we teamed up and we said that our goal will be to build cost-effective solutions, Africa-centric solutions that will actually match, compete with the ones from all over the world. And we've been on that project for the past 3 years. I visited Nigeria 9 times last year before the coronavirus. And I just came back from Nigeria, for us to receive our first shipment of, I think, 3 or 4 containers of equipment that will be manufactured in Nigeria. And we did a few pilots with the major chains in Nigeria. So what our system does is today, you can with our solution, you can go to a filling station with your mobile phone, and whether it's a USSD, QR, or POS, you buy fuel, you go. We are supposed to, you can buy fuel today in those filling stations and go. But we found out that we went a little too far. Like we found out that filling stations actually drive efficiency using their attendants. So as it is now, we're also releasing new versions of our technology that will improve efficiency using attendants, right?
All right.
So we have that today.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. At least that gives us a very good idea about what you do and how all of this also relates to the engineering space. Okay, so very quickly, we're diving deep into questions for discussion and interactions, and then very few, one or two rules quickly for the participants. Please, we want to encourage our participants that if you, during the course of discussion and interaction, if you have any question, because of managing network connectivity, bandwidth, and frequency, we will encourage that you make use of the chat option. There is a chat icon at the base of your screen of your device. So just use the chat to drop questions. I will be checking on the chat section periodically, very frequently. And as questions comes up, I will be asking our panelists. And then perhaps maybe towards the end, if time permits, we may also hear from one or two of the participants. We may have one or two things to say to this discussion. So very quickly, we're going to our panelists, and I will be starting with I'll be starting with engineer Obi. Please permit me to just use that the very little way. So engineer Obi, what actually is intellectual capital?
Thank you once more and welcome to the discussion. Our topic today, as you gave me, is harnessing intellectual capital from tertiary institutions. And maybe I don't think that topic is, to me, is not yet complete. What are we harnessing the intellectual capitals for? So I think I added for economic development or national development. So if you look at that topic, we have the key words as intellectual capital, tertiary institutions, and economic development. But what you just asked is on intellectual capital. Intellectual capital has so many definitions from different authors. The common sense they are making have summarized to be the product of competence and commitment. Product of competence and commitment. If I can go further, I can define IC, that's intellectual capacity, as the collection of intangible and knowledge-based assets a company can possess. So if I can go further to define what the assets are, because this topic looks somehow more abstract. Where you now describe some of the assets, people cannot know why they are attached or why are they defined as capitals. So in intellectual capital is made up of three components: the human capital, the relationship capital, and the structural capital. These are the three components of intellectual capital. And these components, each of them has its own components. But for now, let's just get the definition of intellectual capital, which I've said is the collection of intangible and knowledge-based assets a company can possess.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Isidore, can you speak to this question as well? From your own understanding, when we say intellectual capital, what exactly do we mean, in addition to what Doc has shared with us?
Thank you. He pretty much expanded on what I actually had in mind. My own is a much shorter explanation. My understanding is that intellectual capital is derived from two phrases, intellectual property and capital. So intellectual property is a work or output or invention that is a result of creative effort, a example is like a design, journals, manuscripts, code, etc. It has an owner. Who has the rights for or can apply for patents and copyrights
That's
or trademarks.
patents, yes, you're correct.
Now, a capital is an asset that produces goods or services. So people think that money is capital. Money is not capital. It's only when money is positioned to produce goods or services that money can be seen as capital. Now, if you combine intellectual property and capital, you would have intellectual capital. Intellectual capital is then a work or invention that can produce goods and services. So an example would be like today, there is a race for finding the cure for COVID-19 and fast charging batteries or even renewable energy that third world countries can buy. Work is going on in these areas and several patents are being filed. These patents are capital because when an entity goes into business, making goods and services that give value to society with any of the ideas in these patents or copyrights, the owners of the patents get paid. So that's what I understand by intellectual capital.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Isidore. Wonderfully enough, you have spoken to the very next question I actually wanted to ask you, which is why is it referred to as a capital? Why is it referred to as a capital? Since from your discussion and from your submission, you've made us understand that intellectual from intellectual capital connotes the innovations coming out from maybe a personal inventions and other and everything attached to it. So the next question I wanted to ask is why is it a capital? But I know you've also spoken a little bit to that. I don't know if you want to add to that, or perhaps I could add Doc to also lend his voice to why we're referring to it as a capital knowing fully well, at least I know from my own experience, I know we talk about human capital, the relationship capital, social capital. We talk about different kind of things we refer to as capital. So the key issue is why are we referring to them as capital?
Doc can answer that one.
Okay, Doc, can you speak to that?
Yes,
sir?
yes, yes. Isdor, you did very, very well on in your own definition because I'll just put it down to add to my own definition. The moderator, you have just said it all. Isdor entered into that second question deeply because from what he said now, when we have the intellect, you have the know-how, have every other thing, combining all of them goes maybe from the institution to the factory, becomes a product. So most of the time, you see why they call it capital is that some of them are physical, they are tangible, you can access them and value them. But some of the assets are not physical. Some of the assets are not even are intangible. So people may not understand why they are called capital. But understanding as you have just explained it, when you combine the intellect and the know-how, the product will now be something valuable that can now be exchanged for cash, and that becomes capital. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for that. So in the light of all of this definition and explanation, now the next question I want to ask is, so how important is intellectual capital? Perhaps IC, if we may want to shorten it. How important is IC to national and economic development? Let's start with Mr. Isidore. How important is IC?
If you since we are talking about economic and national development, you have a little background in understanding of risk management, and that will let you know that there are certain things that if you don't do today, you're actually in deep trouble, right? So using where we come from, like where we are today, like America and Russia and China, you can see these countries are in a race. So they don't really have the privilege, of not embarking on an IP development. Every technology out there, they have to jump on it. So, and you also understand that risk is probability of occurrence and impact. So even if it can happen, some of them, when some risk events occur and you may not get out of it. So when you assign good weight to risk events, it makes it easy for you to start appreciating the need for IP. We may when you say how important it is, an example is, like I mentioned, the COVID-19, right? So if you find a cure for COVID-19 today, you've solved the world problem. So we're going beyond national. Then at the same time, like we have it, COVID-19 is an existential threat. So the impact is so high, people are dying. So there is actually no way to underplay the significance of IP. But don't forget, there is no physical product today beyond the vaccine that has been manufactured. These are all coming from the outputs of somebody sitting down and thinking and trying stuff. So anything that comes to save us in the world today will be the output of intellectual capital. That's what I'm trying to do.
All right, thank you so much, sir. All right, during the course of your submission, Mr. Abe Olatunde, sorry, Mr. Abe Olatunde Peters joined us. Mr. Abe, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic and say hi to us. If you can hear me, sir, please unmute your mic and say hi to us.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Abiola. I'm sorry, it's the Lagos traffic that is giving me nightmares. Well, I'm here, fine.
It's all right, Mr. Abe Olatunde, you're
welcome. You're welcome, Abe.
I hope that the traffic and your movement will allow us to be able to hear you even as we interact together. So you let us, we've started the discussion. We have Engineer Patrick in the room. We also have on the Mr. Isidore as well with us, and we've been having conversations around harnessing intellectual capital. But for a very quick one, I think what I will just do now is just do a quick introduction.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you even though your network is cracking. But what I will just do is do a quick introduction of yourself, and then I will move on with the conversation, hoping that you will be able to make some inputs along the line. So Mr. Abe Olatunde is a lead structural engineer with over 20 years experience in the engineering industry. He's very experienced in fabrication, heavy duty welding, construction quality management, and I worked with a couple of industries with a lot of exposures, and I've been involved in carrying out a lot of engineering projects across the country. So Mr. Habe Olatunde will be part of our panelists for today, and hopefully that the network will permit him to be able to speak into some of the issues we are raising so that we can also learn from his own wealth of experience. So, Mr. Habe Olatunde, you're welcome. We believe that as we journey on, we'll be able to pick inputs from you. But very quickly, if you can hear me, I want you to unmute your mic and just talk to us in your own understanding. What do you understand by intellectual capital? And that is important to national development and the national and economic development. Mr. Abe, if you can hear me.
Maybe network is disturbing him.
Yes, it's actually en route, so definitely network.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I'm calling you.
All right, I think we'll just move on so that Mr. Abe will So we'll just keep working with the engineer and Mr. Isidore will keep having this interaction and then we will see how we'll be able to push. Perhaps you may be able to join us later. All right. So thank you, Mr. Isidore. You've spoken to why it is referred to as, you've spoken to it's important for national and economic development using examples of some of the developed countries. Engineer Doctor Obi, can you also speak very quickly to why is intellectual capital very important for national and economic development?
Okay, thank you very much. Joining my words to what Isdo has said already, this IC is very, very important, especially this period we're into, as he just mentioned about COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the shift nowadays from baggage economy to knowledge economy, the information-driven society needs IC seriously. That is why one of the scholars I've read about this IC, Messi Laurent, said, IC is the root of all organizations' activities, which are directly contributors to a nation's economy or GDP. There's no way you can talk of development of a country or a nation without reference to their GDP. In all and all, IC is very important. It helps in evaluating the country's whatever economy the country has. There's no way you can evaluate it without knowing where they are in their knowledge economy, which is inversely equal to IC, as my own definition. IC equally improves level of education, because we are not literate enough. We cannot be talking of employing or applying intellectual capital. It provides access to institutions at all levels of education and training. It equally exposes every nation that is interested in IC. It exposes that nation to donor agencies like UNDP, UNICEF, name them, and you know the benefits of associating with some of these donor agencies.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It gives us another chance to create wealth, just like my brother Izo has said. That's when you have patents, serious access. It gives IC intellectual capital gives the opportunity for wealth creation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I can go on and on enumerating all the values.
Definitely. So that's why I just had to come in, so that I know at some point during our discussion, we will still speak to some of these other issues. Now,
Okay.
the very next question I want to ask, which I will also be directing to you, which is very core for our discussion this afternoon, is now we've seen what IC is. We've seen the importance of IC, and we've seen the relevance to national and economic development. Now, the very question I want to ask is, are there intellectual capital in our Nigerian tertiary institutions? Or perhaps, put in another way, sorry, Doc, before you respond, put in another way, what are the Nigerian tertiary institutions doing to foster the development of ICE?
Yes, that's a very good question, my brother. Despite the fact that they are playing with our higher trainings, our higher institutions in Nigeria, where people refer to lecturers and higher teachers as people playing Ludo or making other jests of us. Irrespective of that, I must stand up and say that there's inexhaustible intellectual capital in Nigerian tertiary institutions. The expertise are numerous to be mentioned. Let me take my particular university. My university is a specialized university in agriculture. All the patents they have been producing, federal government has not I repeat, has not in any way afforded them the grants to go further in order to help put those patents into, that's converting the patents now into development of economy. So there are a lot of it. There are some publications, some academia have done that need to be sponsored for further studies. Particularly, one professor, Ezibe, developed a cure for AIDS. And that particular medicine has been up and doing. That is the tests they have done. I'm not in that line, but from what I read from them, the tests they've been doing. But it requires acceptance by the line of organizations before it gets into market. Since that time, nobody has given him that opportunity to show what he has done. See, the problem there is there are a lot of ICs in Nigerian universities. Talk of Nsukka. The other day they produced a car just using electricity. What they need is proper funding, proper grants for the lecturers to go ahead. We have brains, we have talents here, we have access intellectually. But the problem here is funding and the remuneration. The biggest problem we have in Nigerian universities is not availability of intellectual capital, but it is the problem of Nigerian value chain, where they value an abolo in the park more than a professor in the university.
All
because the professor has something upstairs to produce. And the government is hindering those ICs, and that is why we're having some brain drain now. Look at ISDO. If ISDO found it very convenient and very comfortable in Nigeria, we wouldn't have gone to Canada. And look, I've not met him before, but the little explanation he has given on what they are planning to do with some of his students in Canada. If they have a welcome situation or atmosphere in Nigeria, they wouldn't have left this place for Canada. So actually, my brother, I say there are inexhaustible ICs in Nigerian tertiary institutions. The problem is harnessing them. And harnessing them now means government provision of fund to agitate people, at least for recognition of the people that have formulated it. If not, I know those things will not die in them. The highest the person will move out of this country, gets to Ghana or gets to US or gets to Canada, and the person will be recognized and be referred as a Nigerian. Say a Nigerian scientist in America, instead of saying a Nigerian scientist in Nigeria. It is pitiable, my brother. There are so many ICs in Nigerian tertiary institutions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Abiola Tunde, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please unmute your mic.
Can I respond to what?
Yes, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Sido. I told Mr. Abe joining us again, so I thought maybe to pick one or two to hear from him very briefly. But since he's not responding, you can go on. You can go on, Mr. Sido. I was definitely coming to you on that as well. You can go on.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Yes.
Okay. Mr.
Abe, yes. Mr. Abiola Tunde, I think because you are currently in motion, it's affecting the frequency of your network. Yes, yes. So that's why, so unless if it's possible for you to park somewhere for some minutes or for some time and just join us before you continue on your journey. Because otherwise it will keep affecting our own ability to be able to converse with you effectively. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, Mr. Sido, please go on.
Okay, so I really appreciate the endorsement by Engineer Dr. Patrick. It's very my understanding, having studied the Nigerian environment and having also, I've gone to school. I did my first degree in Nigeria, and have done a few advanced degrees over here. I think that we are giving the government a lot of credit and a lot of responsibility that we have not even determined if the government have the capacity, to handle this responsibility we are giving to the government. For instance, like do they even do the agencies have the capability today to evaluate whatever is coming out of Nigerian universities? It's very easy, from where we are coming from, we tend to believe that whenever anything needs to be done, it has to be done. So we talk about funding from the government. Obviously, you hear things from the government like trader money, like government is, yesterday, the day they came up and they had things like giving money to Uber drivers and all that. So my understanding is that somebody in government there is having, motivated, to quote unquote, help Nigerians. But if they do not have the ability to understand, what should be coming out of tertiary institutions and whether those things are actually coming out and how to utilize those, it's very hard. It's kind of, you're asking a child, to recite what the child studied in school when the child went to school. I'm not even sure whether the child had everything they are talking about. If the child even understood the language, whether the IQ of the child is enough to assimilate whatever the child had in school. So the people we have in government, they may not have enough motivation. They may not have enough training. They may not have enough political will, to again time to be able to have been in government, gathered enough goodwill and value network to be able to speak to these issues. So if we pull back, if we are, as engineers are not, we are not there to be, complaining about problems. Engineers' role is to solve problems. If you pull back and say, okay, if we try talking to the government or looking up to government for these solutions and they are not coming, we have to use theory of constraints to look for other methods to address these issues. And another method to address is to first to recognize, like Doctor said, that intellectual capital can come out of Nigerian universities. I remember when we were in Futo, the Ajokuta Steel Rolling Complex. When we were in school, we are studying. They trained us to go and run that program. I still remember the case studies that were there, and there was a time where we were actually supposed to go there and do practical work. So that knowledge is universal; it can be applied everywhere. So it was not built for somebody to just learn and get out of the way. It was built for somebody to learn and go and solve serious problems. So when we have stuff like this, and then if something like that project did not pan out the way it was intended, there is supposed to be a process by the engineering society in Nigeria or the academic society to say, okay, how do we now approach another arm of the society that may not necessarily be the government? There is a private sector. They are getting funding both internally and externally. We can leverage such knowledge to solve problems in the private sector, and then we carve out a portion of that to continue funding, the source of that I see in the tertiary institutions, relying on government. Maybe because I'm now living in a responsible capitalist society, I strongly believe that the role of government needs to be limited so that people who want to do solve will actually go in and solve the problems.
All right, thank you, Mr. Isidore. You also spoken to one of the questions we have here. I'll come back to Doc very quickly. Doc, there are one or two questions here that I'll need you to speak to very briefly, and then I'll also need you to then perhaps Mr. Isidore may still say one or two things as regards to them. So somebody is asking when you were talking to us, Dr. Obi, you mentioned the fact that the government had not afforded the grant. I remember you used that phrase, afforded the grant. And somebody was asking that, are we saying that number one, is it that the patents of maybe some of the IPs as a result of the IC? IP here now is the intellectual property, IC is the intellectual capital. Now, IP, intellectual property, is just one of the components of what comes out from intellectual capital. So I've just had to make the explanation so that everyone will get this. Now, so Doc, someone is asking that, is it that like some of the IPs now, the intellectual properties coming out from the, like more are you now as a case study now. Number one, is it that those IP have not been patented? That's number one. And then number two, are you saying that perhaps development support have not been done or have not been given for them to be able to go up to development level? Now,
Level.
vis-a-vis, because I'm combining two questions now, vis-a-vis what Mr. Isid also said, and the second question I have here, what is the institution doing to attract funding from the private sector? So you more or less have like almost like three things you need to speak to. Patent of the IP, issue of development, at what stage are they at? And then number three, what is the institution doing to bring in private sector funding to ensure the actualization of those projects?
Okay. Let me start with the last one.
Okay.
It's not every administrator, or let me say every leader that has the courage or understanding mixing up government establishment with private people. What we ought to ask attracting private investors, it's good. That could be done in some private universities. But when it is government university, even for faculties to generate funds for them to develop one of their patents, some leaders look at it as being against the principles of the university or the higher institution. Why? You may be making that money genuinely, but somebody outside will be looking at it that you are extorting the students or there's another source of revenue. So most of the leaders, they restrict themselves to government grants and or whatnot. I cannot emphatically say that there are some moves my school or some individuals there have made to contact private investors. I cannot emphatically say that, but I know that the fear of the type of politics we play in Nigeria today. Maybe the private investor you are talking of is of the other party. And the person that is the visitor to that particular school, school is of other party. The operator now will be fearing the gap between the two parties, and that equally hinders progress in all we do.
Okay.
That of it, the patents, he said, I am sure of 2 or 3 patents.
Okay.
Even one of this very father that was supposed to have been in this panel, I think their department, they have 2 patents already developed. Okay. What they are looking for now is the money to get into production of those things. Okay. We are having serious problem of funding. Serious problem of funding. I thank Isdo, my brother, who said he is now in a well-organized capitalist atmosphere. Ours here is full of politics. You have somebody that can do something. Somebody can just bring out his money and say, this thing is valuable, go and produce it. The next moment, somebody comes out of somebody wanted to establish a COVID center in a federal university or in a state university. He had to, because he's not in the same party with the state or the federal government, had to get, if you know what it took him to start that, half of the money he wanted to use in that thing has gone into negotiation and the permission to get the land, first of all. So you can see that type of distraction. So we really need to have the understanding that people need to develop this country irrespective of political affiliation or ethnicity. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I think we've taken enough around that. We'll move to the next question I have here very quickly. Now, now we've seen the importance of IC, the importance of IP. Now, the next question, I'll start with Mr. Isidore. And please, before I move on to the question, I want to encourage the participants, please, if you have questions, there's a question and answer button below on our screen. You could use that section to just share your questions. I've gotten two questions which Doc and Mr. Sido has responded to. Please, if you have questions, please just share them with us so that even as we look at the ones we have, we can also leverage them and ask panelists as well. All right, Mr. Isidore. Now, despite the prevailing atmosphere either in the any institution or in the country, we've seen how important intellectual capital is to the growth and development of any economy or any nation. So the real question now is, how do we begin to harness this intellectual capital? How can we, what are practical steps that needs to be taken for us to be able to harness this intellectual capital?
Okay, so from what I'm understanding, it seemed like maybe because of the dynamics of our political system in Nigeria, I'm noticing that it is very hard for people in Nigeria, to do anything without, having political context applied to it. And what the issue Doc raised here is very valid. Like, I can understand where he's coming from. However, what I had issues with is the fact that no matter how we see it, the academic institution is not a political space. If for any reason we have people who are capable of doing things and they are finding out that there are political arrangements or context that is making it difficult for them to, get out of the shell and actually serve the society, I think it is very important for us to go back to our values and start asking ourselves, why are all those political leanings even a burden, to our ability to actually get off the ground? So as far as I'm concerned, I think the knowledge, the expertise required for raising funds, for funding is something that our people need to get trained on. Our people need to understand that people who have money want to make more money. Let's call it what it is. And they are always they're out there looking for people who have ideas, to generate more money, right? So which goes to say that, and so those investors, let's call them investors for now, they are trying so many things, and they already have a model, for success. They can say out of 100 investments I would make, if 3 or 4 succeeds, that it will cover the ones that they lost money on. So really, those in the university, when they talk about this private sector thing, they really know that this is really serious. Like, there are people out there who have funds, they want to invest. So we now need to start, changing our mindsets, instead of looking to the government or looking to politicians or looking to political arrangements to be able to raise funds, we should be looking for people who are making stuff. Right? And most of these people who are into investment, they don't really, they just want you to tell them which problem you're trying to solve and how your solution, your patent, your copyright, your IC is going to solve that problem. Then after that, they will ask you, so once they are on the same page with you, they'll be like, well, say, which stage are you on now in your development effort? If you tell them I'm at the stage where I need to, concretize, do prototype, show proof of concept, they will say, okay, how much do you need? There are people out there are organizations out there who do such things. And if any investor start getting into political conversations with you, that is actually the time for you to shut down the conversation and leave, because it is not really in your domain, right? So if we get out of the fact that there may be political arrangements or impediments, we begin to see things broadly, because there are people out there who have more money. And don't forget, politics is very transient. The politician today might not be in office tomorrow. So if we keep thinking that if we play to the tune of one political party, that becomes cyclical. You don't move forward. We need to talk to people who are very neutral, who have money, who don't care about politicians, and people who will invest. So when I say private sector, I'm not joking about it. There are people out there. And if you come to Lagos, it's happening there. There are a lot of IP and IC stuff going on. There are a lot of innovation stuff going on. They have problems that they are solving. So when people who are in the academic world, who are usually, most times, they have the brain power and the time, right, to think about this problem deeply and come out with solutions. When you do, get out of the economic environment a bit and come to people who have money and show them the solution. Worst case scenario, you begin to see that they have provisions for getting you off the ground. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Isidore. You said a lot of things. You said a lot of things. But Engineer Patrick,
Yes,
I also want to hear from you, sir. Now, from an academic point of view, for someone in the academia, how do we harness, how can our universities look beyond the challenges that are actually already obvious to us? There's some challenges that are really obvious to us. We know the political issue is there. We know funding issue, most especially most of the times, university depends almost 100% on government, to meet their funding needs and all of that. So as you see, that created some more or less issues on ground. Now, but looking beyond these issues and these challenges are obvious. Now, what, from your experience, even as the acting head of department, what are our institutions doing, or can our institution begin to do to really harness both the IC and the IP that are present in our tertiary institution?
Thank you very much. I still go on to thank Isdo, because I can see he has tested the two environments and he's now equating two of them appropriately. I've been in Nigeria, I've been in the industry before I entered into academics. What Isdo is saying now works with individuals, private sectors. And these private sectors, even at that point, there are some level of extortion and commitment. Sometimes people will say, let me die with what I have instead of doing this thing for this particular company. It takes God's grace for 50% of people that have that intellect or that IC to accept some of the conditions they give you here, right here in Nigeria, for you to transfer what you have as a patent into product. I pray it improves with some understanding. That notwithstanding, this could equal the IC is harnessable by further training and improving on knowledge. If somebody has any little knowledge and you keep on improving the person from one seminar, from one conference, from one training to other, the person keeps growing every day. And I promise you, and I will be very proud to say it, let the funding come, let the government support, let the private sector support come. Nigerians can do 10 times what Nigerians still do outside. Because there's no way you can rate any person outside this country now or evaluate any process in this world. If you have 100 participants there, at least out of that 100, 2 or 3 must be Nigerians. And those Nigerians must be exceptional. So I'm so proud that we have the intellect, we have the IC, we have everything. Our problem is harnessing it appropriately by funding and giving the necessary trainings.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. At least one key input, very critical issue you've raised is the need for continuous capacity development, training.
Continuous one.
For effectiveness. All right.
Yes.
Mr. Adeola Tunde, I want to confirm if you've reached your destination. Please, can you unmute and speak to us? Yes, it seems I can see you now, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
I think it will be a bit better now.
Yes, it's a bit better.
So I'll do a quick one. About my business, we've had a peculiar interaction with the academia. It's quite painful, and we still don't have a solution right now. So let me just share my experience.
All right.
I come from, I was born into manufacturing. So my parents, my father is a draftsman in a fabrication, in a construction company and things like that. I've always lived in a workshop. So all my industrial training have been pure industry. So when I spoke with an expert, it was like, okay, so let's say you have like 25, 30 years experience in production, something like that. So when I got to know about advanced manufacturing process, CNC manufacturing, it just clicked. I understand every step of it. And I wanted to grow my business into what the Germans call a meter stand. So the underpinning industry behind the whole of Germany is about 8,000 companies they call meter stands. And meter stands are, this is when you see ABB, or you see the Bosch, or you see the Siemens, they don't run any factory making any physical thing. They just run a serious R&D lab, and they run a pseudo assembly plant. Every other thing is done by the meter stand. They need a switch, they need a gauge, they need this, they need that. They just call the applicable meter stand and say, guys, we need this. So when they are running a project, even at design stage, they call them in. So I wanted to work with academia so that we could build these things, because there are things that need verification. From where we are coming, working with academia will even be cheaper, because verification would have been done. I happen to have worked in what we call model-based engineering, whereby we design a structure in Nigeria, they take it to Korea, they manufacture it, and they bring it to Nigeria. Even the main structure that was taken to Korea, other components come from all over the world to join that structure, and there's no error. There's no mistake, there's no front and back. Everything goes in step, and it works first time. So from that experience, I wanted to work with academia so that we take fresh brains, we show them how things work, the real path for making things work, follow the procedures, and we just come up with results faster. But it was a total mess. That's the plain truth. We tried the University of Badon, let me not be specific really, but it didn't work out because the institutions are not expecting us. The framework for us to develop a viable relationship was not there. So we really we found labs that had equipment and they are not working. So we had to even start from the stage of, how would I call it, repairing equipment. So it was so bad. So my test is this, let me not call it this, but my position is this. Academia and deep R&D is the way to solve industry costs. But those who are in industry, academia needs to bring us closer. I don't know how it will work, but because let me give an instance. You have a structural engineer. I've done a lot of structural work. So you have a structural engineer. He has made a design. He sent it to Korea. They built the structure, brought it to Nigeria, commissioned the structure. It is a totally different experience from teaching it. So there are some other issues, like I teach my trainees, I say the corruption that comes from document error. It's totally different from the situation you have when you are writing an exam or all this, or writing a thesis or presenting this and that. So these are the things that academia is missing. Those who are in industry know this thing. We live and dwell on it. Let me give an instance: technical drawings. A drawing is a legal document. It's a legal document that can sink your company, that can make or break. But at academic level, it's just a basic sketch. So we do documents, we put in the clauses, we put in the general notes, we put in so much details that when you take our documents, you can, if you lay your hands on a single document that we produce, you can make that product. These are
right
now that we need to bring together.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Abel Latunde. You've raised some few issues which will lead us to the next question that I will actually be asking you directly. But before I do that, I want to ask you to please help me check for sources of background noise around where you are, Mr. Abesa, so that we can hear you very well because you're raising some very critical and pertinent issues that are vital for the conversation we're having. Engineer Obi, I also believe you're hearing us very well, sir.
Very, very, very well. I'm interested in
Right.
what you have just said now.
Yes, because Mr. Abe raised some very vital issues, which personally myself, so I know, had been some issues that I experienced too as well. But even though we won't speak into that now so much because of we want to look at some other question. But perhaps if time permits, we may still raise one or two things related to that. But Mr. Abe, let me quickly ask you a very quick one. So, what steps can we begin to take, as it were, to ensure the creation or facilitation of intellectual capital development in a tertiary institution? Because part of what I had you speak about is the fact that even some of what there's still that gap, and there's still certain things that need to really be led, as it were, or student needs to be exposed to, which would have been made possible if there was this collaboration between academia and the industry, or engineers in the field or experts in the field, so to say. So what will you suggest must we begin to do to deliberately, intentionally, and consciously facilitate development of IC in our institution? You can unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Abe, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry, can I have the question again? Sorry, I didn't hear that clearly.
Okay, but can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the question is simply what and what can we begin to do consciously and deliberately to facilitate the creation or facilitation of intellectual capital in our institution? How do we make this become something of priority in our institution?
Okay, great one. The first thing is like a database. I should be able to walk to a university, say, I am working on a pick and place machine, and I need students, just a database. And I say, okay, if I can get people, okay, it's so bad with my team that we are ready to pay, we are ready to fund. In fact, right now we are training some people for the NSC and we are funding their transport, even though we are giving them things that
It seems
Network.
it seems we've lost Abe. So while we wait for him to join, Mr. Esido, can you speak to all of this? Can you speak to that very quickly?
Yeah, so obviously you can see that he's just identifying a key problem here where we have a need for him to speak to us on the area of knowledge.
Okay.
But,
I think I'm back.
network
Okay,
issues.
I think he's back. Okay, so let's hear from him. Yes, Mr. Abe.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I am somewhere in Napa, so maybe the network, as in so many people are trying to be online also. Now, this is the issue. If you are open, imagine if an institute has an open directory that says, just come and state your problem. You will find students that are interested in this problem. Because we, in industrial engineering, there's a problem we call NPR, non-polynomial hard. As in, some problems are just, you know, you are not solving this thing in 3 hours. You know, if you put in $1 million, it's not going. This thing requires people to sit down and constructively put their mind together. So let's people be able to write their problems. Then the university or institutions can say, oh, who is interested in this? This is a sponsored program. For instance, we have a CNC router in our shops, and management has made up its mind that are not buying more for our business, and we've learned quite a lot. One of the things we are trying to add is a pick and place machine, like a robot, a pallet moving robot. As much as we want to do this, it's not happening because there's nobody to sit down on the project. We are ready to fund the project, but there's nobody to sit down on it. And it's not something you can buy. There are some businesses in the US, for instance, where they focus on this thing. They don't even make the big hardware. They make pallet changers, they make tool changers. So some of them make this thing. So if there's a database that can allow my business to just state my problem, and the institute can, in an open manner, find people that are willing to work on those problems, then we are on. When you are thinking of sponsors, there is a challenge because industries are extremely sensitive to their projects. My business cares about only what we care about. We don't care about something related to any other department. So if we can focus on project-based partnership, that means I keep mentioning pick and place machines. That's about the worst in my mind. We had issues with the spot welding machine. We had issues, so many other things. So, but if we can focus on those that say, let us state our problem. Once we state our problems, you find people that are interested in working on those problems, and a relationship is formed, and we'll give the department or the faculty a feedback on the progress. Because what
All right, Mr. Abe, thank you so much. Even though your network is not so clear, but at least we've been able to pick some issues from what you've said. Now, because of time, so that we could hear from others, I have Dr. Ijeoma from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I think that's the Electrical Electronic Engineering Department as well. She's here on this call. So, Dr. Ijeoma, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic. And I want you to also speak to this from the angle of the academia. I believe you've had a discussion so far, Mr. Isidore, Mr. Habe, academia. What do you have to say to all of this? I've also seen quite a number of comments, as well as I have one or two questions before me. And for me, this discussion is beginning to get very, very interesting because we have a lot of both participants who are even in various countries, and they want to talk into all of this. So, but Dr. Ijeoma, can we hear from you very quickly?
Hi, can you go on? I would chip in along the line.
Okay, you're chipping along the line. All right, so let me pick one of the questions I have here. Mustafa Deji is saying that, he said, I must appreciate Mr. Abe. Engineer B, I believe you can hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, Mr. Isidore, I believe you can hear me too as well. And I want to believe Mr. Abe too can hear me. So he said, I must appreciate Mr. Abe. He said, as a PhD student here in Korea, so I believe he's currently in Korea. He said, my professor runs the lab. I believe the lab where he's carrying out his PhD project. He said, my professor runs the lab from grants he got from private sector to solve their particular problem. Now, he said, is this not what Nigerian universities need to do? That is more or less, he's saying, this is what Nigerian university must do. So I don't know what you want to say to that, engineer. Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Isidore, but Mr. Isidore, let's hear from engineer.
Yes.
Engineer, what do you have to say to this?
I think the boy is making a very clear sense. This case of students doing their theory here in Nigeria, and somebody will send you to look at South Africa. Even that where the boy is from, the boy is talking from
Korea.
From Korea.
Yes.
Nothing. I think he's correct. Nothing prevents us from doing it here. It's just what Abe had just said. I said, I've been in private sector, I've been in government, I'm now in academics. So I know the problem there is orientation. Orientation.
Sorry, Doc, orientation for who? Is it the
Orientation
academia?
for both, no, orientation for both the, let me say, the visitors and the participants. Participants now includes the lecturers and the students. Once you are determined, determination is the word. Once you are determined and you are interested, knowing that this determines whatever you are going to be today or tomorrow. I think you heard Abe very well.
Yes,
See, they are not so much interested, but they are interested in a particular product they produce. When you are interested in what you are doing, nobody will tell you stories. There are so many people in the system. That is the problem. There's no concentration. There's no concentration.
Sorry, can you hear me, engineer, sir?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, now sorry, I had to come in, and I need to do that once or twice because I want us to really address this issue. Now, what I had Mr. Abe saying is that his company is willing to partner with higher institutions, okay, including, I think he mentioned one or two names, even though he said he didn't really want to mention it. But
yes, I had.
So I won't mention them again, otherwise I would have mentioned. He said, but when they got there, it's either the lab in themselves are not even primed for anything like that happening, or they are experiencing bottlenecks and bureaucracy from the institution's point of view. Now, this has nothing to do with government. This is just between an higher institution, say your department, and someone coming out from the society and saying, we want electrical electronic department in MOIU to work with us on this project. But they are experiencing bottlenecks.
Yes, that's get me correct. That is what I'm saying. What Abe said is very, very correct. The problem there is the will. The will, one.
From who?
From both, I said, both the management of the respective schools and the operators. If Abe comes to my department today and demands something that I can do as Patrick will be with him for a very good result to come out, I will do it as a person. But when it involves the management now, what they call the toll gates, the toll gates will now increase. And each toll gate may take you the next 2 or 3 months to cross. You cannot, that's what I mean by toll gates. There's nothing, there's something you cannot do with your powers, but you have the talent to do it.
Okay, sir.
Am I making a point?
Yes, you are, definitely.
There are certain things you can do as Patrick Obi that I cannot do as head of department of electrical electronics engineering.
Okay.
Are you getting the point?
Yes,
so what I'm saying that unless the government, the participants and the management, until they have a total purge of ourselves, a total determination that we want this in work, total determination that we want these coming generations not to suffer what we have suffered. That's the only time what Abe said will now come up.
Okay,
there are so many relationships like that that has been stored simply because of bureaucracy.
All right, lastly, sir, because I say I have 1 or 2, 3 questions before my questions will be exhausted, and I believe 1 or 2 from the participants as well. But lastly, sir, I can see Mr. Isido, I can see you raising your hand. I will allow you to speak to this. Sorry, I had to put the engineer on the hot seat because for now, he's the only academia with us. I thought Dr. Ijoma wanted to come
Ijoma volunteered to talk along the line.
Yes, I'm still waiting for her to come back. Now, but while we wait for that, lastly, sir, now, one of the major issues I've had you raise now is the management of the university system. Now, which I also believe that with someone in your capacity as the acting head of department of the department in the university, I believe you're part of the management and all of that. Now, what people like yourself, what are you doing to ensure that the management of our institutions get to know that perhaps certain things need to change so as to be able to embrace the private sector? So I've been trying to refrain myself from saying this, But I know Mr. Tochukwu also knows about this, and I wish he will also speak to this. I know a school like Futmina, Federal University of Technology. They are mechatronics engineering department. I have been there myself. And I must tell you that they are doing massively exceptional things there. And there have been a lot of collaborations, not just with even private organizations, but even government agencies, doing projects for NCC, doing projects for government agency, and partnering with external the partnering, they're having a lot of partnership with the private sector. And I can tell you a lot of money is coming into that department, and they are doing so much. Yet it is also a federal university. So I'm asking you, what are people like yourself doing, sir, to ensure that these bottlenecks are done away with?
Thank you. I think I've pointed one sample for you. I said, I mentioned name here now, Professor Zibe of the Veterinary College of Moanyu, not even, that's succeeded in producing a cure for AIDS. Maybe it's not yet, as they say, it's not yet confirmed. But the management has making frantic efforts to get the bodies. Look at some of the managements are proactive. They aid the lecturers or the professors to do this. But there are so many you can't understand what I'm saying. There are so many hindrances, not within the university, not exactly within the respective universities. No, there are so many bottlenecks outside. It is there in everything we do in Nigeria. So some of these people can go, if just a professor goes out now to do private, establishes a shop there and starts giving people, you see that inflowing as an individual now. But when he gets to government, I don't know what is there. That self-determination, that sacrifice is no more there. Nobody wants to take that as his responsibility. And that is the problem. So the management sometimes make effort. They make efforts, serious efforts, and they are sabotaged by some other people. You know, in this sequence of harnessing ICs, you can have gurus in respective universities, and they can go up to the management. They will succeed in their. After all, we run our ICT, and we do so many things with our ICT. They contract it out now, negotiate to get it affiliated to some people. It will be a very big problem. Government has to do something about that link. That link is seriously weak.
Okay, thank you so much.
Academia that knows what I'm saying now. That link between universities, that autonomy, that's what we are fighting, ASHO has been fighting for. The autonomy of respective universities to do things, give them the matching fund, and allow them to do those things and bring out for the government.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So very quickly now, because of time, I'll be very quick, but I have a couple of questions. Yeah, Mr. Esido, I know you're standing by. I'll get back to you. But very quickly, Doc, I'll need you to just use 1 minute. Yes. I believe you can hear me, sir. Engineer Vincent is asking that, can you please help us identify possible challenges faced by university lecturers in assessing academic research grants? That is, just mention 1, 2, 3, 4. What are issues that are making it very difficult for lecturers to assess research grants, either locally, internationally, anywhere? What are issues? Just 1, 2, 3, 4.
There are not so many. I say, what the major issue is bureaucracy.
Now, what of minus government? Minus government. Bureaucracy comes from government. What of external funding? Minus government,
getting funding,
external funding.
You are that's okay. You mean I know what I said now. You mean private
yes, private, yes, international agencies, whatever.
International, how can you get international agency grant without affiliation with your school? It's not possible. There must be an affiliation. There must be a recommendation. There must be. You cannot just be walking on the streets. Sometimes they say whatever correspondence you have to them must be with your institutional email. That will show you that the school and other agencies have hands in that. Not that they don't provide grants, so they provide, but it is not equivalent to the ambition is not proportional to anxiety.
Okay. All right. Mr. Isidore.
The frequency is minimal compared with number of researchers we have now. It is very, very, very infinitesimal. So what we are pleading is for the liberation of some of these things. Make them more open.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Isidore, very quickly, what can the industry do to foster development of IC? You've heard all of what Doc had said. You also had the response of Mr. Abe. I think he's also on the line. What can industry do? Very quickly. I'll also come to Mr. Abe. Now, with understanding of all this problem, the problem is there already. It won't be money. What must we do to ensure that we foster the facilitation of IC? After you, I'll come to Mr. Abe. Very quickly, sir.
So I will speak from an angle of experience. During my last master's Master of Applied Science in Biomedical Engineering, and I worked with Ottawa Civic Hospital. And there, one thing that the residents doctors told us was that they were literally begging us, to work with them in the hospital because it was an interdisciplinary course. So they were begging us to actually take interest in what they were doing. I asked them, why are they begging us? They said, okay, they need to drive down healthcare costs. And one of the things that happened was that whenever the industry we are coming in, they had GE, they had Motorola, they had Siemens, they had all these companies, Medtronics, they were there. And they said that when these guys from the industry listened to the, to the residents and the doctors talk about the problems, that what would happen is in 6 months' time, these guys come back with solutions. And the doctors had to try out those solutions, but they never owned the IP that came out of it. So they were actually begging us to work with the doctors to see how far we can go in the product development, so that the government and the hospital can own, and the doctors can own part of the IP. So why I'm saying this is that I think that the Dr. Patrick, I don't think I agree with you with the way you are going about thinking that government, nobody is government. I really need to make this clear from where we are coming from. Nobody is government. I'm an innovator. I create stuff, right? I feel I don't even want anybody to know I don't even want anybody to be interested, because I should be the only one. I should, to a large extent, know the value of whatever I see I have. So if I can maximize it 100%, I don't want anybody to be involved in it. So it seems like we are ignoring the fact that when somebody in a university or an innovator comes in and creates something, that person has to be greedy. It's that greed that drives what people do. So why I have a hard time believing what you are saying about the government is that you're not even recognizing that I don't want to give out my IC to anybody. So what I did to address that problem is that when my investors, when they bring money, I solve the problem they asked me to solve. And I also heard what you said about, when people solve problem, how are you sure you will get what you're supposed to get? Most times my motivation for solving this problem is to see people actually use the solution. So industry will come in, private sector will come in. If they have an opportunity, they want to take 100%. But you have to understand there is more that the industry brings into making your product get to market than just the idea itself. And also, industries pay salaries. Industries have people who work for them. So let's say you come up with an idea. You should be saying, if I get 10%, 20%, 30% of revenue, or for the patent or the idea, that should be enough for me. Let the industry do the rest. And the advantage of that also is that it will allow you time to continue innovating. So to give you an example, when we rolled out our product, I had other products I'm working on. One of them is here. I developed it. I cloned it from the ones in Europe and in Asia. And now my investors, I told them I want to build a lab, where I said I wanted to fund it. I'm building a lab, where they said no. They said they want me to build it somewhere else. They also want to fund it because they see the value. They are the ones that brought the problem, and I solved it, and I built a product. One thing you may have noticed there is that I found a way to create a tangible prototype that will solve that problem. Prototyping brings the solution to people. They can feel it. That skill set is what I found missing in Nigeria when I was there. But over here, I found out that we can prototype and create stuff. But with Alibaba now and with China now, you can create anything and build it. And they will arrive, the parts you need to make this stuff will arrive in Nigeria. So we need to get away from seeking these funds that are not even addressing a product that has actually been prototyped, and focus on prototyping it. And remember, when you prototype, there is no guarantee that you will make it to market. I'm saying that there are investors out there who can work with academia. If you want to build a lab, to even build a factory to manufacture, they will build it. Let us leave all that for them and focus on creating those stuff. This happens in MIT today. The guy that comes from Korea also mentioned the same thing, that his lecturer, his prof, has a lab. Every lecturer in Nigerian universities should use some fraction of their revenue to create a lab, make stuff in the lab, and watch that lab grow.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Isida. Okay, so Dr. Ijoma.
Sorry, moderator. I want to point out something. sorry. Just quick one, please. Quick one.
Go ahead.
I still thank ISDO. For eventually comparing the situation here in Nigeria with where he is now. And he is talking. Look at my point is this. Some of these lecturers are very good in their private labs. If we are talking of private sector, I can discuss that. But my question, the question you normally ask me, Yana, how will the institution, and I talk from example, I talk from the area I'm coming from. What I'm telling you is that as individuals, as you are now, ISDO, you are doing very well because of the passion you have for sharing your knowledge with others. That is
I love what I do. I'm not doing well here, but I love what I do.
You love what you are doing, and you are so much in love with what you are doing. But here, what I'm saying that when they do it as a person, they succeed. Why can't we now? If government in your area, a person cannot tar 5 kilometers of roads, the government can do it with a twinkle of eye. So if yourself, ISDO, can comfortably do some of these patents, one, if you get government grant, if you get grant from government, you are now putting in your intelligence. You will do more. But the grants are not coming from the government. That is my point. But as an individual,
but that's not my focus.
Okay.
That's not my focus.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Esther. Thank you, Engineer Obi, because I need to begin to wrap up this session now.
Okay.
Yes. So I just have maybe one or two more final questions, and then we'll be done. I have one or two questions there. We'll just pick questions from the participant, even though most of these questions are still directed to university, but let me just read one or two. Please henceforth we have just Mr. Abe. Mr. Abe, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please unmute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I see, it seems also you're already in motion again, but if you can speak very quickly, what can we begin to do? What can the industry begin to do to ensure that we foster the development of IC, despite all the myriad of problems? Your network is so bad we can't hear you. Okay, Engineer Obi.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, one or two questions very quickly. Engineer Vincent is saying, okay. So he said it is difficult for staff of institutions to do things because of the bottleneck, okay, mentioned by Professor Obi. So what are the way forward to ensure national development through IC? Before you speak to that, I think I'll just go to this question. I have just two more questions, so maybe you just speak to that in addition to this. How can we enhance collaborations between the industry and the academia? I'll start with you, Doc. Now, with the prevailing situation in our institution, using more you as a point of reference as a case study, what will you suggest we need to begin to do to ensure that we foster a collaboration between the industry and the academia? Because we've seen from all our discussion that definitely for Nigeria to grow, for us to get to where we need to get to, this must happen. We need
Okay.
IP, we need ICE. So what do we do to foster this collaboration?
Just to reinforce what is already existing, there's a symbiotic relationship between the academia and the industries already. But what I hammer is re-engineering of those relationships. Because university produce graduates, even this Abe that is talking, ISDO, they were produced by the academia. They are now on their own, practicing what they learned in the universities, and is moving. If they now get into, like say, ISDO now is employed by Ministry of Science and Technology, he will get up one morning because of the love he has for his work. He will get up one morning to execute what he has thought about that, and somebody will distract him with one file or one memo. The next day, he will just pack his things and go. So there's the encouragement. There must be the establishment of the encouragement between the academia and the industry for this thing to grow, for the collaboration to be more. Again, research works. Most of these things they produce even in the industries are people's research, people's projects that are now translated into products in the industry. So sincerity and re-engineering of our self, our individual selves is the word. If we reorientate ourselves, if we are honest with ourselves, if we purge ourselves of the bottlenecks, of the insincerity in man, some of these things will work. It is working every other place. It is working over there. Why shouldn't it work here? The reason
All right,
is
thank you, sir.
re-engineering.
Okay, the need for okay,
the
need to re-engineer, the need to
re-engineer the
encourage
symbiotic relationship between the academia and the industry that has already been existing.
The need for encouragement, the need for sincerity.
Sincerity of purpose.
Yeah, before I go to Mr. Isidore, Doc, somebody, Akim, okay, I think who is asking this question now? Okay, I believe Mr. Akim Famuyiwa is asking that could the Ministry of Education impose a mandate on all institutions to initiate an intellectual capital development project and set a yearly quota on them? Is this something the Ministry of Education could do? Is this something
Thank you very much
that they have the veto power to bring to bear? How can we pull the Ministry of Education and NUC into this kind of conversation?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good question. If you don't know where you are going, you end up going everywhere. If there is a target, as my brother has just suggested by MUC and the Ministry of Education, if you give somebody a target, you must give him the resources to achieve the target. Once you have the target, have the resources, you yourself now have the objective. That's the IC you have, the objective to achieve that target. And if everybody fails in his own part, the person will be blamed. But I assure you that if such targets are given and the resources are given, the encouragements are there, these targets, Nigeria, I repeat, Nigerians are so intelligent. We have as unquantifiable quantity of ICs in the respective universities, but the situation, the environment is not favorable.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Isidore, I will allow you to speak now, but before you do that, Dr. Ijoma, please take notes. You will be speaking to this after Mr. Isidore because we're more or less done. We're wrapping up already. Okay, Mr. Isidore, please.
So I think there is a lot of motivational talk going on among us. Like when Doc talks, I get so fired up. But what we are not processing critically is intrinsic motivation and individual sovereignty, right? Like no matter how we see it, I believe that Doc had seen Nigeria work before. I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be calm down first. I believe he
Nigeria
has
has
seen,
worked before, and I
yeah,
hope it will still work.
yeah, I believe you've seen Nigeria work before. And now the thing is that you need to understand that I have not really seen Nigeria work before, right? So, so I have a hard time. I have a hard time believing, and I actually left the country comparing where the country is today. I believe I left the country when the country was better, and I thought things were bad then. So you
God
can
bless
see,
you. God,
yeah,
God
it's
bless you
not
for
doing,
being frank.
yeah. So, however, Doc, there is something I wanted you to understand.
Thank you.
Nigeria is the way it is today because we left. I want you to understand that. I came to that realization on my own because where I work, I train people. I train people every Tuesday.
Yes.
And whenever I train them, they get good at their job. So one day I woke up and said, why am I training all these people? They are all foreigners. Our company headquarters, we are in Silicon Valley of North America and all that. So I was like, but if I was training people, if I train these people and they go and do their work well, if I'm doing the same thing back home, that means that this knowledge will help people to do their work. So this was one of the money part of it was there for me to start up my company, but being able to transfer knowledge to people was also part of it. Now, think about it. I cannot make the money I want to make, grow the empire I want to grow if I'm doing things myself. However, if I'm able to transfer knowledge to more people, that means I'm replicating more of myself wherever. And the only place it will be more profitable to do that is the place where the value is being realized, and that is Nigeria. So you are looking at government, but I am not looking at government. There are so many of my friends here who have come to the same realization, and they are looking back home to say, okay, whatever knowledge they need to create stuff, they will go back home and impart it on people and set up facilities there. We just found out recently that most of the things we wanted to do can be achieved with solar panels. We just found out recently. So that means that with solar panel, the issue of electricity is mute now. And then land is cheap where we are going. And then people are there. You talk about academia, that's fine. But we don't have to go to tertiary institutions. Some high school kids, I was in over the last 2 weeks, and I wanted to take a picture of a motherboard. A little boy went inside a pump, disassembled the whole pump, brought out the motherboard. I took a picture, gave it to him. Before we finished uploading the picture, that machine, he had put back the board and the machine has started working. So this goes to say that our people, we are very technical in nature. I think there is so much emphasis on the academic side of it, and we are forgetting the technical side of it. So I recommend that we start looking at, the bureaucracy you talked about, where they are there, most of them will never leave. And if you go by theory of constraints, you can use duality and ignore those constraints, right, and bottlenecks, and find other ways to get things done. So my solution has been pick up a problem, solve it theoretically, work with the people who provide you parts, which is China, then go back home, train people who are there, validate their ability to actually support operation of that product you are talking about and rolling it out. When you're able to validate this, then you finish and hand it over to private sector and start another chain of it. By the time you keep doing this and keep presenting success, you will see more people building factories around there doing the same thing. It will be a matter of time before the industry will come together so well. They will start asking academic. No one in academic institution will help. Certifications. When technical people do stuff, they need to certify those systems to compete with industry standards. And this is something that academic people can sit down. I remember, I was in the academics before. I'm not there anymore now because I'm using my knowledge there to make stuff. But when I want to certify, it takes so long. It takes somebody to sit down. It takes a lab. Those are the things that academic institutions can also do to help industry. So my point is there are areas of synergy that can happen. We need to just remove government. I don't believe government, will help. Government would have played a role if the government is effective. But because the government is not effective, it will just be natural for them to transmit their ineffectiveness to your own innovation process.
All right, Mr. Isido, thank you very much.
Thank
Before
you
I
so
come
much.
to
Thank you, my brother.
Dr. Ijoma, lastly, Mr. Isido, I have a question here from
Go ahead.
Mr. Cyril Ienacho. So he's
Mhm.
asking, he said, Mr. Isido, in Nigeria, we have lots of innovative ideas and
Okay.
prototypes developed. He
Mhm.
said, but the biggest problem is mass manufacturing
Okay.
and going to markets
Mhm.
to ensure sustainability of these ingenious prototypes to
Mhm.
guarantee a return on investment. So, what can we do about the issue of mass production without going out of Nigeria and ensure growth of these ingenious products?
Okay, so my response to that is that I think the last premise is flawed. When you say without going out of Nigeria, it means that you are not leveraging core competence in various parts of the world. The iPhone you use today is an American product, but that you can tell that 40% of the IP in iPhone are from Germany. I think 30% is from Japan. I think manufacturing is in China. So yes, we need manufacturing in Nigeria. We need mass production. We need mass production in Nigeria. However, there is another bigger piece of that pie, which is support and RMA. RMA is return material authorization. So when the product costs so little to make, but you can use it to run an operation for a very long time and create more jobs, you need to start looking at the product as not just that physical tangible product, but as a function of the value, the chain it will create. So yes, you can have a prototype. Another issue with prototype is that you also need to go out there to make sure that you're able to benchmark your prototype against mainstream ones that are in the market. Because obviously, nobody will leave a Mercedes Benz that will cost the same as a car you put together and then buy your own, even if the person is your brother. So we need to also know that when we are prototyping, what we are doing is learning. We are learning how a system works. We should be able to trash our prototype if we feel that the cost or the value is providing is not enough to compete with the ones in the market. Then at the same time, you also need to be able to take a product that is in the market, refactor it, re-engineer it, and bring it down to Nigerian cost structure. Now, this is what industry is looking for today. How the industry is asking the question, how do we get the same products, the same services, the same value that every person is getting in the world, but the cost still mirrors our own cost structure? So when you do this, like I talked about solar is there. Then we also found out that in majority of the cases, when you want to drive heavy machines, heavy generators can do that because they don't run forever. Then when you say you don't have to do everything, whatever cannot be done in Nigeria, our sources to other countries like China that can make it. But assembly, test, validation, rollout, marketing, operation, these are things that China will not do for us. So I'm trying to make sure that we know that the manufacturing value chain goes beyond just making individual components. Putting them together is also a lot. So the person that is prototyping needs to have this in mind. So I make parts, put it together, but my Chinese partners make as much as they can make. Then we take over from there. I still own the IP. I still own everything. So we haven't seen that challenge that we thought was there when we jumped into it.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for speaking into that. Dr. Ijoma, are you there? Mr. Tochukwu,
I
we're
thank
rounding up
you.
so that you come up.
I'm here. I can
Yes,
speak.
okay. Dr.
Okay.
Ijoma, okay, please go on.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you so
Good
much for
evening.
this speakers. It's been an insightful evening. I'm an academic and I have a very special interest in the industry as well. So I wanted to point on some things. Definitely, I don't like anything that has to do with government because of all the things around it. But the truth is that you just can't do without them. However, there was another thing I wanted. Yeah, because, for example, now we're developing a curriculum for a new faculty, and you realize that, guess what? NUC have a set out benchmark that all engineering must follow. And the number of courses and volume are too much that you are meant to follow it and then add more on top. So we have a fundamental teaching problem. You have a semester, a student is doing up to 10 courses. So it's a rat race of teach the math, and no practical at all. And then most of us in the teaching now, we just went through the university, just a little, maybe some of us did IT in the industry for 6 months, and then we come back again to teach. Where do we now get that industrial experience to know exactly what the industry needs? So I would suggest to the industry, as your own move, I know you might be waiting for the academics to come to you or whatever it is, but if you can have, I know big companies like Shell do it, they have sabbatical leave for academics to come and actually have industrial experience. It will help us to see things from the industrial aspect. Then from the academics, again, it goes back to the government. The rat race is publish, 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 and perish. All we care about is what your number of publications, not even the quantity, and not even in terms of innovation, especially for us in engineering. It's a fundamental problem that I see here, because
serious one, my sister, serious one.
Everybody just wants to publish volume and become a professor and start earning, not even thinking that thing I'm publishing doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. So I think the problem, everybody has a role, a big, but we have a fundamental teaching problem in Nigeria. Our education needs to be uplifted.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ijoma. So last word, everyone. We're done. We're through with the questions. We've picked the ones from our participants too as well. So just one minute. Last word, everyone. Engineer Obi, 1 minute. I'll be timing everybody now.
I think I bought the entire idea shared by my sister Ijoma.
Yeah.
Sabbaticals for academics.
Okay.
If it is possible for any use to make it compulsory now, should be in industries.
Okay.
Should be in industries. I will now have that exchange of ideas. You come back and impart on those keys what you have learned, learned theoretically, and you have done it for 1 year in the industry, and you are now back from sabbatical. Now impart it on the students. It's going to
so much,
improve our system. Go a long way to improving our system. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Esido, 1 minute. Final word. Your mic is muted. Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, so what I really wanted to talk about is, I think mine is more about it's a take on the academic institution in Nigeria. I think less industry is there. They already been driven to make money, and they will continue making money. I think what I wanted to say is that I think our lecturers need to teach people, students, why they are studying what they are studying. Courses we study in school, we don't know what they are for. Like, it took me a long time to understand the difference between algebra and calculus. It took me a very, very long time, and the students don't even know that algebra deals with averages, while calculus deals with instantaneous values. These two distinctions make a lot of difference when you want to start solving problems. Another one is graph theory, which finds application in network analysis, critical path method, CPM, PET, and other. These tools are for project management. In this application, principal relationship and shortest distance are the focus. Meanwhile, a case was made that the number of nodes linking to a node determines how important that node is. This is how page ranking works. Page ranking based on graph theory is the core and foundation of Google. So it is very funny how we learn these things. We just cram them and get out of school. But there was no primer initially to tell us why we are doing these courses. Now, it's very important for our lecturers to start paying attention to that. I know the issue of funding, but I found out that this is one key issue in innovation that we miss critically. So it's very common over here in North America, where they spend so much time telling you how to ask critical questions, how to understand problems. Then later, you can now pick up interest in a specific area and go and get advanced in them. So if our academic institution can forget the government, we get government is there. If they can ignore that and start asking, is there something there is about the way we are taught in school that makes us to know so much, but we are not able to apply those in problem solving? If they change and start thinking about that, you will see so many people going around getting crazy about issues in the society, solving them. An example is this COVID-19. I would say there is no COVID-19 in Nigeria relatively, but nobody in the academic environment is establishing any research to gather data to show that we should be benefiting from the fact that we don't have COVID as much as other people have. when you ask this kind of questions, create thesis around it, write publications around it, patents can come out of it. And when they do, you will see industries coming in to say, okay, one development that can come out of this night, that Nigerian government can go and make the case that Nigeria should be a place for innovation and manufacturing, because we don't have the risk other countries have when a threat like COVID shows up. These are huge problem statements, that can support our development. I don't see that coming out of that place. And the little people, the entrepreneurs like me that solve little problems and make money, we may not tackle everything. Universities are there to ask big questions, and we don't see that in Nigeria today. And I feel that the government that has those expectations is also concerned that maybe more money is being poured into that place, but nothing is coming out. And somebody is also blaming government of bureaucracy. If the universities start throwing solutions at people, at governments, you will see things change. I don't know. I have not seen it personally. I have not. It's likely it's there. Universities need to start showing what they've done and let the rest take care of itself.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Ijoma, finally.
Okay, I think I just spoke, but Isidore, you attacked the university. I would like to attack the industry a little bit. What I could say is, you know that our products are your people, like the people that you employ. And you end up in the industry training these students when they finish the university. However, why don't you think about...
He is our product. This guy is our product.
He is our product, but he can argue with you that all the things he's doing now, he learned it on his own. I'm waiting for that argument. However, why don't you think about, you probably might be doing it, training lecturers, because if you train one lecturer, you can be sure that he is going to train hundreds and thousands of students. Many of our lecturers actually need either a placement in your industry or even training in the university. Think about it. I think you would benefit more, because when you teach the lecturers, then they would automatically pass it down to the students. A lot of us just don't know it. We move from the classroom back to the classroom. That's it. It's Nigerian factor. We don't have jobs.
Okay, so just to respond to that quickly, not to bypass the protocol. So I already have a program whereby I'm seeking permission from my wife that 3 months, the last 3 months of every year, when I roll out my product as part of my corporate social responsibility, my CSR for my company, I will be lecturing in photo. And my goal there is to I'm creating the program I'm trying to lecture on is creativity and innovation and new product development, NPI. For the past 16 years I've been in Canada, that's all I've been doing. The whole 5G, the whole thing that we've been neck deep into it. So it addresses what she's saying. My goal is to open that place up, let anybody that wants to learn about product development be in class and hear me start a project and finish it.
Thank you, Isdo. I'm proud of you, Isdo. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
That would be amazing. I would love some feedback from you as well.
Okay.
When you teach 1,000 students.
Isdo is a very good product.
Definitely, we'll keep a tab on him. All right. Thank you, everyone, our panelists, the participants. We're grateful, but I want to invite Mr. Tochukwu Chukwueke to take the floor to actually do the closing remarks. Thank everyone so that we close the session.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very great, very interesting, very insightful section. At least for me, I've enjoyed my time. I've laughed also. So I want to thank the moderator for doing a very great job. You did a very great job in moderating. I think I even sent you a private chat that you did a very good job on that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Motayo. Thank you, the panelists, Dr. Grateful that you contributed. Thank you, Isidore. You've always been outspoken, and then I'm not surprised seeing you also, doing the same thing here. We've enjoyed all your ideas and insights, and we are grateful for your contribution so far. We also look forward for the things you say you plan to do for Nigeria. We are waiting and we are ready for that. Thank you. Then thank you, Dr. IJ, for your contribution. Thank you, Engineer Abi, for joining us. Today is a busy day for you, but you still have to find time to join us and contribute. So thank you, Engineer Abi. We are grateful for that. We want to thank the College of Engineering and Engineering Technology, Michael Obama University of Agriculture, for this collaboration opportunity that they gave us to be able to partner with them to implement the E4I, the Engineering for Industry E4I project. It's because of their collaboration that we have this webinar today. So thanks to the Dean and to Engineer Noso, who is our rep in the school, and thanks to all the participants that have asked questions, that have listened, that have contributed, that have brought their time. Thank you for all your time. We appreciate all that time. Thank you for joining us. Without you, we have been talking to ourselves. So thank you for joining. We appreciate that. Our contact is on the screen. You can reach out to us. Our phone numbers are there. Email address on the screen. You can, get in touch with us for ideas, for support, for any other contribution. The Engineering for Industry project is designed to bridge the gap between academia and industry, enhance collaboration between academia and industry. So we are open to collaboration from other institutions, other universities. We are open to collaboration from other industries, the private sector, regulated agencies, from the government, from all the stakeholders who are interested in improving engineering and engineering education in Nigeria. So we are open for collaboration and for partnership. At this point, we want to thank the supporters of this project. The E4I project is supported by Engineering X, which is an international collaboration founded by the Royal Academy of Engineering and funded by the Lloyd Foundation. So we are grateful for that support. We're also grateful to ACT Foundation for supporting this program. And so thank you all for joining. Then stay in touch, follow us on the social media handles. We'll keep organizing events like this. So this is the first phase of the E4I project. After these webinars, we are going to be having capacity building for lectures, for engineering students, for engineering graduates. We will be supporting industry academia research, industry academia collaboration. We'll also be supporting capacity building for secondary schools. We'll be doing so many more things. So just stay in touch as the progress continues. So thank you once again, and do have a lovely evening.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tochukwu, for that wonderful closing remark. So everyone, once again, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for making out time to be part of this conversation. We believe very strongly that we'll take it beyond this point in due course. My name is Omotayo Olorunfemi. I'm the founder of Teachers Academy Africa, and what we do basically is upskilling teachers to acquire 21st century competencies for effective delivery, effective teaching and learning. We work majorly with the secondary school and the primary school. We believe very strongly that with time, we will all see the Nigeria of our dream materializing right before our eyes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being part of this. And on this note, we are declaring this webinar closed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all our panelists. Thank you for the time. We really stayed a little longer than we usually do in our webinars. We stayed for almost 2 hours plus. It was really quite engaging. I believe everybody, it was worth our time. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Okay, bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Isdo, send me your contact.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
All
Thank
right.
you very, very much. I'm
Okay.
very proud of you.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm proud to have a good product. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.